Today I'm with Kresse Wesling, one half of Elvis Kresse, a brand at the forefront of transforming upcycled materials like decommissioned fire hoses into fashion accessories. Kresse, along with her partner Elvis, has recently purchased New Barns Farm in Kent. Here they're pioneering a regenerative vineyard. I'm excited to have the opportunity to meet with Kresse, who will guide us through their farm and talk about their incredible journey, which includes battling one of the worst heat waves the UK has seen in decades that hit them straight after planting their first vines.
Kresse, thank you so much for joining me to talk about your amazing farm. I'd love to just start with the backstory. How did you end up buying a regenerative farm?
Well, it definitely wasn't regenerative when we bought it, I guess. Elvis and I have been thinking about a farm for many years. My grandparents were farmers in Saskatchewan. It definitely, I have learned, is not something you inherit.
Yeah.
It's called New Barns Farm, which was slightly ironic because the buildings were all in a lot of trouble when we came. But it's 17 acres, we're in southeast England, just outside Faversham. This was the biggest farm we could afford.
Yeah.
And probably we could afford it because the buildings weren't in very good condition. And the land was actually in trouble. So it's grade 3 degraded pasture.
Okay.
We're anecdotally told that not the previous owner, but the owner before that ran a turf cutting business. So
okay,
they
wow.
sold their topsoil. And actually, if you look at our historic drone photos, that kind of would bear that out. There's definitely patches that were so terrible.
So you can see where it's been removed.
You can
and
see where the land was really, really, really in trouble. So there was no bioremediation that needed doing here, but we had no earthworms. We had almost no organic content in the soil. Everything that we studied told us that it needed a lot of help. And that was the perfect place for us to start, because in our business, Elvis and Kresse, we collect waste and transform it into beautiful things. And we thought about, then this is that same issue. This is a wasted landscape, and it's got so much potential for biodiversity, for carbon sequestration, for water infiltration, for maintaining water in the landscape, and doing lots of stimulating and exciting things.
Yeah.
Because we're about an hour from London and we make these beautiful handbags. We attract a different kind of audience. So we run these workshop and farm tours, and most people come to see how we make handbags.
Yeah.
But then they get this intro into regenerative agriculture. The land told us what to do. This land could have said carrots, please, and it didn't. It said, I have no topsoil, I'm south-facing chalk, in climate change, grapes.
Yeah.
Plant grapes, and not just any grapes, but red grapes. Make a red wine here because it's time to make red wine in the UK. Sadly, it's time to make red wine in the UK. So, so we're making wine here because that is the most viable thing we can do with the land. But we're making wine in a different way. Our vines aren't 1.5 meters apart, they're 3 meters apart, so that we can do
intercropping, cover crops, amazing, yeah.
Biodiversity. Like and we've got 90 rows. So if I want to do corn down one row, my crop rotation will be a 90-year crop rotation.
Wow.
So we'll do all these great things. The site naturally lent itself to 3 areas, and we've got Cab at the top, Cabernet Noir at the top.
Yeah.
The wine that's here is called a Reno, and then Sauvignon Gris on the far side, and then Pinotin through the bottom, because Pinotin is frost resistant, and that's where we're likely to get frost.
Fascinating. So you choose the types dependent on the location of the slope and the.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So we need the most sun for the deepest red.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to get it at the top. And then the rest of it was down to topography. The wetland system had to go here because of the gravity. It's all gravity fed.
Yes.
We had this amazing, amazing man come, Jay, who runs a company called Biologic Design. They build wetland systems like this all over the country. They build them for chicken farmers, all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
And this one was designed for us and for this site and for this soil type.
Okay.
So his are all site specific as well.
Okay, perfect.
And this is planted with hundreds, and if not more, of different kinds of species, because in each swale as we go down, it does a different thing. So the first swale is pulling huge amounts of nitrogen and phosphorus out of the water, so you've got big thuggish reeds. But the next swale down, we've got a more sophisticated planting of reeds. And by the time you get to the end pond, you've got beautiful flowering plants. This is the first swale, so this, even though we're into November, has got big reeds coming through last year's reeds, which are all decomposing. So at the same time that something's decomposing, something's growing through. They're all designed based on the number of people you have here. We have 4 people, the house is designed to have 4 people living in it. Then we've got 2 cottages that are designed to have 2 people living full time, and then a workshop of up to 15.
Yeah.
That's what you would say is your permanent, and then we can surge to groups of 30, 40, 50. So the beauty of the system as well is it has surge capacity. Yeah, so that's the final swale there.
Yeah.
Before we wrap around into the pond. So if we have people come here and see this in all its glory in July, and they realize that this is designed to treat wastewater, I think they're going to be slightly blown away by how beautiful it is, by just having planted it well, which is Jay's job, and then letting nature do what nature does. And then the whole thing is planted with willow, which is coppicing willow. So we could get into basket weaving if we wanted.
Okay, amazing.
Or just the production of a really good hardwood, so for fuel. You assume you can just plant vines. You can't. You have to order them a year in advance.
Okay, wow. I didn't
So
know.
we were a year behind, but then we were like, okay, during that year, let's prepare the land, let's raise up the organic content. So we were compost teeing it like crazy. Then we planted the vines last April, and then we proceeded to get no rain. And I mean no rain until September. So vines need water in their first 2 years, and in our first year they got none.
Wow.
And we had a whole week where we were plus 40 degrees, and then 2 days that were 45.
I mean, I remember that summer. It was the most insane summer I've ever had. I can never remember. So that was literally after you just planted everything.
Yeah. So that was a real shame, but also that happened as we were putting in the rest of the infrastructure on the farm. We already had the plan for the wetland and the rainwater harvesting, but we then put in a 20,000 litre tank and all of this other system so that we could collect every little ounce of water and store it. And now we have plans to have another big pond at the bottom, because we've really, really, really got it in a big way that water is life. And the more water you can retain in a landscape, the healthier it's going to be. Yes, you'll have less land to grow things, but you'll have more land to be biodiversely productive, I suppose. In a regenerative system, you aim to do 5 things, and the first 3 are soil related. So you don't disturb the soil, you maintain living roots in the soil, and you armor the soil. So we didn't ever plow this site, we maintained the pasture that we had. When we put in the vines, we didn't plow and then machine plant. We dug 12,000 holes and put in 12,000 vines.
Wow.
And then you don't disturb the soil. So what you try to do, like instead of disking, which most vineyards would do, they would have depth under the vine. We mulch to reduce competition. So we take every single thing that a traditional vineyard would do. We have to think about how you do that regeneratively. And then the other 2 regenerative things are have animals in your landscape. And we have sheep that they go, so we'll have them in one row, and then the next day they're in the next row, and then the next row, and we maintain that through electric wires. Hello, you are always the brave one, aren't you? You are always the brave one. Everybody else is a little chicken. You're a real sheep. And the final thing is biodiversity. You have to amp up the biodiversity, and that makes perfect sense, because let's say you can, in a vineyard, your vines can be attacked by a red spider mite, right?
Yeah.
And if you were in this death spiral of old school farming, you would kill the red spider mite, and then you'd kill the next thing that came along and kill the next thing. Well, we had some red spider mites arrive, and we were going, ooh, what are we going to do about this? But we didn't have to worry, because we don't spray anything here, and the next day ladybirds arrived and ate them.
Isn't it amazing? I love that.
And that's why you need biodiversity, because nature has a plan. We need to
step aside and let nature take its course. And
so yeah, we call this the avenue, because this sort of road was always here, but then the rest of the farm was divided up into lots of little small pastures, and we took all of those fences down. We had someone come with a yeoman's plow, which is the only kind of plow you can use in a regenerative system, because it doesn't turn the soil over, it just goes in and lifts.
Okay, wow.
And we followed behind that with compost tea, so that we could inject microbiology into the soil and start to wake it up a little bit. And then we did that a few times, and then we had the vines come in. So it's just been for us, it feels like it's taken forever, but lots of people come here and go, I can't believe this is what you've done in 2 years.
Yeah, I think it's super impressive for 2 years. I'm amazed at what you've been able to get done.
And our workshop is just here, and that didn't exist. That was just old stables, lots of asbestos covered buildings, and we replace that with a beautiful straw bale, near passive design that runs on very low energy, and that's where the business is based.
Yeah.
And then we've got this extra bonus steel barn, which is hopefully where we'll make wine.
Okay, so
When we've
okay,
got
great.
grapes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, because this is what we've also learned with wine production, is that if we grow the best grapes in the world here and then send them to a winemaker that isn't organic and doesn't share our philosophy, we lose the whole, not just the narrative behind those grapes, but any kind of potential for certification too. So yeah, we are going to have to learn to make wine.
Perfect. That's quite exciting.
I know, it's another thing.
You're going to have to do
learn.
training or...
Half art, half chemistry, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I love it.
There was apparently a group of people from Cuba where there's no grapes.
Yes.
They won all these awards for wine
because
they imported concentrated grape juice and just won the chemistry.
No way, oh my God.
Yeah, so
crazy.
I'm quite interested to see where we can get to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of an amazing site. This barn, when we came, was the best building on the site.
Oh wow.
And now it's kind of the worst, and we need to up the game. But yeah, we discovered so many things. There was a collapsed floor in there. Yeah. There was bits of this rusted out steel, which we've turned into kitchen countertops.
I love it, amazing.
These bits of tree stump were in the goat enclosure and were basically mouse habitat, so we wanted to get the mice out of the field. You have to kind of make use of everything. Mulch for us is key because we're not having death under the vine. So this is the leftover straw from the straw bale buildings. And actually, we know where we put down straw that it performed the best. And then we've got just some charcoal that we're putting in. We're experimenting very early days with biochar, which we hope to be able to pull a technology together to do that. Then we've got our fire hose to mark all of the rows. So of course we've laser etched that onto fire hose.
Love it.
And then we've got leather, where we've done some sort of experiment on a row. We've got brown scrap leather that will denote one experiment. We've got bright pink leather that will say something else.
So every offcut's used.
Yeah, we use everything, and it's all to signal something. And actually, this is something Elvis is super proud of. There's a spreadsheet with every single vine on it.
I love it.
And everything that's ever been done to that vine.
Amazing.
And then he updates it as the years go by, and it is very fun. And then of course we have when I first got here, I was like, let's get something to measure the rainwater. And gosh, this is how much rain we've had in the last couple of weeks, 3 inches, so loads. But I love this, it's old school, but this is the scientific system that gives us to the fractional millimeter. So yeah, it's very...
Does it help predict what's happening? I mean, as we've been talking, we've got the clouds kind of coming in and...
No, it doesn't help predict, but it does allow you to know, if you think, oh, we got a lot of rain last night, you can then check and say, well, actually, we didn't really get a lot of rain last night. And we need to know what the conditions were so that we can understand what kind of intervention might have to be made. Yeah. So it's always, you are always reacting to weather. I think the coolest thing that we did, or our biggest innovation with this, wasn't just that it was fire hose, but it was the fact that 50% of the profits go to the firefighters' charity. Yeah. It was saying, yes, we want to deliver a circular economy, but we really want a circular economy in terms of capital flows as well. Mm-hmm. And that's been an incredibly fun business to run. And it is the business that wants to improve its environmental performance, which is why we're on the farm. Yeah. So we now have these two elements that will learn from each other and riff off of each other and support each other over time. And the only reason you see couplings here, which are the ends, is because they're cracked or deformed. Okay. So typically we do not get couplings because they'll take them off and put them on new hoses. The reason we've got these here is because they too have failed.
Could you use them for anything?
We polish them and turn them into candle holders.
I was going to say perfect candles. Nice.
Yeah, they're very beautiful. It's kind of cool that something that puts out fires then safely holds a fire.
Yeah, I love that.
So outside, I showed you some dirty hose. This stuff is all clean, split, ready to go. So when you see hose stacked in a big circle like this, that's ready to make belts from. And then here we've got hose that's ready to make bags from. Belts, you can have thicker material, but for bags it needs to be thinner. So we found a way to basically peel the hose like this, exposing the core. And that core is why hose can't be recycled. So if it was just rubber, you could recycle it, but because it's got this nylon woven core, you've got to Frankenfiber.
Yeah.
You can't separate the two, can't shred it, melt it and start again. But that means that we've got this material ready to go.
And gives it its durability.
Gives it durability, gives it its structure. Today we're having a workshop. So the people have arrived to effectively design their own fire and hide piece. So we've got all the colors of leather, and they choose their colors, they choose their pattern, they cut out their pieces, they weave the panels together. Yes.
Going back to actually, rather than keeping it as a separate business and having it here, all connected.
Yes, the drought last year, which was just so soil destroying, we did have the water in the ponds, and we filled bowsers, and we went around and gave each vine a litre of water, of water.
Okay, wow.
And it would take 10 days to get around the entire vineyard like that, and then we would do it again.
Wow.
And that was kind of how we kept them.
That is love.
We've got another income that is supporting us.
Yeah.
But what if you're a subsistence farmer?
Yeah, you're
You've got
100%
nothing.
reliant on your crops
And
and
that's
the weather.
why we have suicides in farming, and that's why we have a crisis in farming.
Yeah.
Because if this is all you have, and we've got the extremes of climate,
Yeah,
it doesn't work anymore.
totally.
So the lack of respect we have for our farmers is a big problem. The lack of money that we pay for really good nutrient-dense food is a big problem.
Yeah.
And here we can talk about those things, because we're going to tackle them. And that's also why it's important to do market gardening. We can't just do wine, we have to do food.
Yeah,
Because the economics of food, it's important to show that that works too.
definitely.
It's important to have these two businesses running as one business so that we can show that every business can tackle climate change and biodiversity loss.
Yeah, I love that.
A business doesn't have to make money here and subsidize goodness over there. A business can be holistically good. It just has to decide to do that.
Yeah.
And if we can do that on no budget and with no experience, then some of these large, much better resourced companies with much more employees can definitely do it.
If you know of any nature regeneration projects here in the UK that you think I should visit, please do share more details in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and see you again soon.